But I want to transition into something Kathy got on wonderfully today, and I'm not even going to try to handle the ask, seek, and knock. But I want to talk about that greater story around that for a second. That story's from Luke 11. And for so many years, I missed what Jesus was trying to do. I don't think Jesus was giving you a pattern for how to pull down the heavens, how to get a hold of God and really make something happen. Because just to refresh your memory, Luke 11 is a moment where the disciples say to Jesus, teach us how to pray. And so he says, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. He gets to the end of the prayer, and then he tells the story of the importunate friend, the friend that comes at midnight, or better said, the guy that knocks and won't quit knocking. You know that story? Okay? In that story, there's a guy that walks up, knocks on the door, his friend's in bed. He says, I got someone to stop by my house. I don't have anything to feed him. Can you give me food? And the guy inside the room says, hey, I'm in bed with my kids, go away. And then Jesus says, oh, he's going to get up. This is what he said. Jesus says, he's going to get up, and he's going to give him bread, but he's not going to do it because he's his friend. He's going to do it because of, and the King James uses the big word, importunity. But it really just means the guy is just a nag. He won't quit knocking, and if you knock, and so I took that as God's hard to get, he's a little hard of hearing. Hard to get his attention. So if you want God to anoint you, bless you, favor you, prosper you, save you, forgive you, you better knock. And if you don't get satisfied, knock again. And if you're still not satisfied, knock again. And we would promote that and go, some of you coming up here praying 5-cent prayers, expecting God to give you $1 million answer. You're going to have to get a hold of the horns of the altar and get a hold of God. I'm going back into my old, that's heritage right there, baby. That's spitting on the front pew, wearing a tie and a vest, marching across the platform. That's the whole 9 yards. I'll have you lined up front slapping people here in a minute. But that's how we preach the dissatisfied God. And man, and we'd knock on the pulpit and get the microphone down there, and man, you'd feel the power of God in the room. I mean, it really wasn't the power of God at all, but we had high emotion running, I can tell you that. But I bought that stuff, man. You're going to get a hold of God. Sometimes he doesn't answer. We'd say this. He sometimes doesn't answer on knock number 1. Sometimes God doesn't answer on knock number 2. You never really had a good answer on what knock it would take, but you just had to keep on trucking. Here's what the Holy Spirit began to reveal. Jesus opens the story this way. He says, listen very carefully to the wordings of Jesus. In Luke 11:5, Jesus says this, how many of you have a friend? He's not in the story. The Father is nowhere in the story. This is not a story of fathers and sons the way we think it is. But there is a father in the story, and there is a son. We just blast right past him on our way to knocking on pulpits. How many of you have a friend who comes to you at midnight and says to you, a traveler has came to my house and I have no bread. Can you give me some? And you say to him, I'm in bed with my children. You will eventually get up and give him bread. But it won't be because he's your friend. It'll be because he won't leave you alone. Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be open. And then Luke 11:11. If a son asks for bread, would you give him a stone? Why does Jesus do it this way? Because he wants to show you the difference in an acquaintance and a son. If an acquaintance comes, you'll bless him if it's convenient. It wasn't convenient for you. You're in bed. Your kids are in bed. Nobody comes to your house at midnight. That's inconvenient. Jesus says, you know what? You're good people. Eventually, you'll get out of bed. But it won't be from a heart of grace. It'll be from being perturbed. You will literally open the door and give your neighbor bread because of his pestiness, because of his importunity. But I say to you, ask and you'll get it. Seek and you'll find. Knock and it shall be opened. Why? Because if a son asks you for bread, how would you respond? See, this is the difference in you asking me for something and my Lucas and my Lauren asking me for something. I'll do everything I can to please you. But I'm not going to cross just any line. And don't come to my house at midnight.
Well, you didn't tell us where you live.
Yeah. And I'm not going to, quite frankly. But here's the truth. If you did come to my house at midnight and knocked, you'd have to knock again, and then again, and then again. And if I don't call the cops first, I might actually get up and peek through the window. And if I recognize you from that conference in Chico, I'm probably going to open the door. But it's not because you and I are close. It's because I got the impression looking in your beady little eyes that you weren't going away. And that's what Jesus says. The best you can give an acquaintance is open the door and give them bread, go back to bed, get them off your front step. But if it's your kid, you move heaven and earth. Your kid doesn't knock twice. Your kid doesn't knock at all. Because if you need you in that first story, where are you? Let's slow it down one more time. There's a father and his kids. And there's a friend on the outside. If God is our father and you are his kids, where are you in the first story? In bed next to the father. If a son were to ask the father for the same loaf of bread that the acquaintance is asking the father for, how far would the son have to go to ask? In our world, they'd have to walk down the hallway. We're even more distant than they were in the ancient world. Their kids slept in the same bed. So if the kid wants bread, he just turns over and wakes up his dad. That was the point of Luke 11. God is so satisfied at calling you his children that if you have a need, I like what my friend John Sheesby says, if you have a need, just roll over and tug on daddy's nightshirt. That's a beautiful image. Let's get rid of the knock, knock, knock till our knuckles bleed. You have a satisfied God.